Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, I am just super jacked up about every now and then we mix in a physical health episode, some mindset episodes. We try to balance the whole entrepreneur on this show. And it's been a while since we talked about your physical health. But today's episode, our guest is going to do just that, talking about working out. And I think he's going to blow your mind. He said we only have to work out a couple of times a week and for only like 15 minutes at a time. So I'm already listening. I hope you are too. Steve McKinney, welcome to the show. And thank you for being here.
Brandon, pleasure. My pleasure to be here. And I'm excited about this because this is my passion. This is something I've been doing for over 35 years. And I know it sounds crazy, but I have so many testimonials on how this stuff works for people. And I still see it to this day. And so, yeah, I'm excited to jump into this and talk about it.
I love it. So in the time it takes to listen to one of these episodes, you could be getting a workout done 15 minutes twice a week. And in all that time you save from going to the gym, well, you should just subscribe and listen to way more of these episodes. That's my opinion. Do whatever you will with that information.
But you can work out and listen to the episode at the same time. And so you should be your timer.
That's even better. Steve, I'm going to send you an extra check for this episode. Thank you for that.
I love it.
So let's dive right in here because this is a very interesting topic. You claim, and I want to hear more about this, two workouts, 15 minutes each a week, and we're going to be jacked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I added the last part, not you, but we're at least going to be healthy. Tell me about this.
That's the bottom line. You know, the thing is, and I'll just give you a quick background. I've been doing this for over 30 years. And what I did when I started is I kept records of what people could do. Not what they could do for a minute or 6 weeks or whatever, but what they could do for a lifetime. And I came up with a system that's called weight training, walking, and watching your diet. And so, but the weight training part of it, I'm going to explain to you why we do it in a short period of time. What happens to your body when you go to the gym, if you watch a person do a set of exercises, they move the weight really fast, then they rest, and they move the weight really fast, and then they rest. You know, they do 4 or 5 sets of 10. They work out 5 days a week. To me, that's a part-time job. If you're working out an hour a day, you're spending 20 hours a month. That's a part-time job. So, but if you think about the amount of work that they do, barring the rest, they're only working out 10 minutes because they're resting the regular amounts of time. So what I have done is I remove the rest times. So, and I'll just explain how your muscles work. So you have 4 different muscle fiber types. These are called slow oxidative, fast oxidative glycolytic, and fast glycolytic. And what you want to do is the thickest muscle bundle is the last one. It's called fast glycolytic. And your muscles, what they do is they fatigue in a sequential order. They're recruited in a sequential order based on the force that your body is using, the amount of weight that you're lifting. Now, you don't have to lift super heavy weights. You have to find a weight that keeps you under the load, meaning your muscles are tense the whole time. You're not unloading the weight at all. You want to keep it under the load for 60 to 90 seconds. And so what I do with my clients and how I put it together is we start and we move very, very slowly, keeping the muscle loaded. We're not moving fast. We're moving anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds down and 5 to 10 seconds up based on the movement and the length of the movement of the exercise. So the first muscle fiber type gets fatigued. Then the second one is called on. Then the third one is called on, provided we keep that muscle tense the whole time. And we're trying to get to that 4th muscle fiber type. Now, when that's happening, Brandon, here's what's going on. Your muscles are shaking. They're burning very, very deeply as if they're on fire. You want to learn to embrace that. That is really important to embrace because that's where the magic happens. Once we get to that 4th muscle fiber type, which is right around the 60 to 75 second point, based on the client and their individual muscular makeup, that 4th muscle fiber type takes anywhere from 2 to 20 seconds to deeply stimulate, or what I call inroad. It just fatigues it deeply. But here's the interesting thing. It takes 4 to 10 days for that muscle fiber types to recover. So when I say you only need to work out 2 days a week, that's really the truth scientifically. Then, Brandon, what I do, because people ask about cardiovascular, does it help cardiovascularly? And so what I do is I go from one exercise to the next with very little rest time, actually kind of a rush factor. So I do a pulling movement and then I do a pushing movement, which is called an antagonistic muscle group. That way the pulling muscles are recovering while you're still using the pushing muscles, yet your heart rate is highly elevated for that period of time. Does all that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm going to tell you one thing real quick that I've been studying, is this helps your heart incredibly. It helps your heart because we're continually pushing pushing blood through your body. And so it helps your heart so much. My resting pulse rate, 38 when I wake up in the morning. I've
Wow.
been doing this stuff for years. It's absolutely incredible. So that's how we approach the weight training part. And the beauty of it is, it's almost a, I'll just use the word religious experience, because you're connecting your mind to the muscle. And for that period of time, the world goes away. And the problem with entrepreneurs, business owners, we have these high levels of stress. Our minds are always racing. So I use that workout. And I did a workout today, actually timed my workouts. Mine was 14 minutes and 57 seconds today. I did 6 exercises and my legs are still wobbling. And so, but the stress, it kind of goes away. It helps so much. So hopefully all that makes sense. I know I threw a lot at you there, but
Yeah, no, I mean, yes, it is a lot, but I mean, it makes sense, and it's interesting to think, because I used to be in that camp where I'd go to the gym, I 6 or 7 days a week, for about an hour, hour and a half, and you're right, it really is a part-time job. Now, I do like the part of the gym where you kind of get to zone out and you don't really have any other responsibilities.
yes.
So that's part nice. That part is nice. You have the community aspect of it. So, I mean, if anything else, I guess you could still go to the gym and hang out with your friends who aren't going to work out like this.
So
But
true.
do you need a gym membership? Like, or do you have to have weights
No,
in a gym for this, or can you do it at home?
I have in my book, I put a home workout and a gym workout. I illustrate every single exercise on how to use those exercises, how to do them properly. And I always tell people, listen, I'm casting a broad net and I have a lot of exercises in there that you can do. And when you follow it, you do the exercises you can. If an exercise hurts, you simply don't do that. Not everybody can do every exercise, but no, I have it set up in that way. And then I always suggest, if people can, just to take a 30-minute walk a day. It's just so good for your brain.
Mhm.
It's just very, very, it's just very freeing to have that time.
Yeah,
So
I love that. And that's part of my daily routine. Not today. I'm just going to admit it because it was raining out and I'm a big baby. But
I'm
that's
with
my
you. Yeah,
okay, good.
I'm with you.
Me
Listen,
and Steve are big babies.
and Brandon, real quick on the way I do this also, if you're training every single day, your joints are eventually going to show that. I was on a podcast with a doctor who is 50 years old, very nice guy, but he did these crazy workouts. And he was telling me after the podcast, he goes, dude, I'm going to follow what you said. My joints are killing me. And I go, they're not going to get better if you keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I never hurt the joint. I only train the muscle. And your bone density gets increased through that in the middle of it as well. So there's so many factors that figure in.
That's incredible. So now with this training, we'll go back to the example that you used with going to the gym multiple days a week, training different muscle groups and rotating through it. Are you training kind of the whole body at one time, or do you alternate to different muscle groups?
It just depends. Generally, the first programs are full body. For me, at this point, you can become what I call an expert. I'm a jujitsu guy, and
Mhm.
so I'm a black belt in jujitsu. So I always say you can become a black belt in learning to stimulate muscle. Most people go into the gym very mindlessly, saying, I'm going to do 3 sets of 10 on this exercise. I don't do that. We go into the gym with a thought process. We have a plan, and we go in and we stay super focused. And the goal is not mechanically moving the weight, Brandon. The goal is to deeply stimulate the muscle. The weight is a tool. I use totally different measurements. Now, in the book, I cast a broad net, so I talk about doing 8 to 12 reps. I didn't use the time frame because I usually do time, but if you do it correctly, you're going to be under that load for a particular amount of time. And so what I do with that is I just make sure that you're very good at stimulating muscle. Brandon, I have people literally that come in once a week. I have an older guy, he works out once a week. It's changed his life. And we still do a full body. For me, what I'll generally do, like this week, I'm going to do 2 workouts. I'm going to do a leg workout today, and I'm probably going to do an upper body workout on Friday. I'm going to train jujitsu once in between. I'm 64 years old. I'm very careful with how I treat my body. I call the book Aging Gracefully, but I'm very careful with how I go about that. So I'll do an upper body on Friday. Now, next week, I'll probably wait till Wednesday, but I'll only do 1 workout, and it'll be a full body workout. So I alternate mine based on my needs, and that's kind of how I approach it.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. All right. So then we've touched on working out, and I'm sure there's a ton more depth to that in the book, which I'm going to encourage everybody to go get. We'll talk about that at the end, or if you're curious, it's down below. I'll just give you a little teaser. But the second W, you talked about a little bit walking. Any methodology to that?
Yes, there is actually. Great question. So with that, most of the clients that come to see me, they want to feel better, they want to have more energy, and want to get stronger, but they also want to look better. And a lot of times it's just body fat levels. And body fat levels are primarily controlled by dietary practices, not by exercise. Exercise is a very inefficient way to lose body fat. It's necessary to keep your muscle so your BMR stays high. You've got to keep muscle or even build muscle at certain points. But using exercise to lose weight is really bad for your body. People will run or things like that. It's so hard on your joints. I just suggest walking. But I suggest 30 minutes after your evening meal. And here's why. There was a study done, it was years ago, and this guy, he measured the calorie burn 3 hours after activity. The activities he measured was walking, eating and walking and eating. And he found that eating and walking increased your basal metabolic rate, your BMR, by 25 to 30%, provided you're on, if you're trying to lose body fat, that works perfect if you're on a restricted calorie diet. So, and even if you're not, still walking for 30 minutes, it aids in digestion. It helps calm your body. It helps calm your brain. It's just very, very good for you. So that's how I approach the walking aspect of it.
Is there a certain window after you eat your evening meal? Did I miss
I
that?
like to have people walk within 15 minutes. And there's actually a reason for that. There's actually 2 hormones in your body. One of them says, I'm hungry, and one says, I'm full. Leptin is a hormone that says, I'm hungry. And leptin happens relatively quickly. There will be a point in your day you're going, man, I'm starving right now. And I think that's just a God-given design to keep us from starving. And then when you get full, ghrelin is entered into your body from your stomach to your brain to say, I'm full. Ghrelin takes anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes for that hormone to reach your brain. So I have people eat dinner, within 15-minute window, take a 30-minute walk. Guess what? Now we're using hormones to our advantage. Everything that I do has a reason. Nothing is haphazard. What I'm trying to do for people is show them, listen, you can get in shape in a very short period of time, provided you follow the rules. And it's simple. It's not easy. You have to really make a commitment, but it simply works.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you're using science and logic to your advantage, right? I mean, let's make it as easy as possible for ourselves. I do want to just ask a question real quick, and see if you've heard about it, how you feel about it, and how it compares. So I haven't heard this methodology of walking after your evening meal. I'd love to try it though. But I've heard Gary Brecka's 30-30-30 methodology. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't. Tell me about it.
The brief overview is you eat 30 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking up, and then you do 30 minutes of basically walking, light cardiovascular activity, and you do that for 30 days. You'll see a difference. So his is obviously first thing in the morning. You're saying after your evening meal. I mean, how do you feel about that? Just hearing about it for the first time.
Mine's not a law. It's a guideline. And there are some people who can't do a walk after a evening meal. I just say walk when you can. And so that's how I approach it. And when it comes to dieting, protein is a big issue. And that's we're seeing a lot of research on that. I think I think people are trying to eat too much protein, and I don't think that's good. So I don't go with like I have to have 200 grams a day. When I'm giving my guidelines for people, for men, I say try to stay within the 90 to 120 gram window. For women, a 70 to 90 gram window. I think what he's doing is probably very wise. It sounds wise, and so I don't think we're super far apart on those things.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Moral of the story, move, right? I
yeah,
mean,
that's it. It's just getting out and getting walking, and then not overdoing anything, just treating your body graciously, and then looking at this from a lifetime, a longevity perspective. And that's kind of what I'm after in the middle of that.
yeah, I love it. I agree with that. And I want to try both ways and kind of compare what works for me. I think
And
that's kind of,
that's it. You got to individualize it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you touched on a little bit with the protein and the diet. The third W is watch what you eat. Let's talk about that for a couple of minutes before we wrap up, because
Sure.
that to me seems like it's the hardest for
By far.
everybody to individualize. How do you
And
approach that?
the reason it's so hard is because we have food companies whose primary goal is to addict us to food.
Yep.
So my answer to that is eat real food. And so fruits and vegetables, the typical stuff we do. But I also say you also have to find the diet practice that fits you. I love intermittent fasting. I unfortunately developed something called silent GERD, so I haven't been able to do that. I had to change my lifestyle a bit. It's probably stress related based on being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I've made those adjustments, and I'm doing better with that. So I just think finding what fits you. So it just depends. Dietary practices are going to be related primarily to your goals. And when I have a client that comes in, this client that came in the other day, she weighed 167 pounds. I said, okay, and she wanted to look better and feel better. I'm like, okay, here's how we're going to approach this. But let's set your first goal at 149 pounds, which is 18-pound loss. And but I always like that, like you want to go 150. I like to get one below that 10. And so I set that first goal for her. Then what I do for her is I say, okay, so what I want you to do is you're going to have to know how much food you eat. Most people lie to themselves about how much food that they eat. It's just very normal. I don't eat that much. I hear that all the time. The guy come in at 284. I'm like, bro, at 284, you're eating that much. I don't mean to be insulting.
Math says you're lying.
Exactly. And so what I do, I really think it's important to actually know how much food you're eating, to count calories. And I know that's very old school, but if you're eating foods that are very filling, that have a lot of volume, an apple as opposed to a Snicker bar, have a lot of nutrition, you're not going to be starving. Your body is going to, that leptin and ghrelin thing is going to actually happen. So if I'm looking at a client that needs to lose some body fat, we have to reduce caloric intake by about 500 a day. We don't want to go starving, but we're creating a calorie deficit. If I have a client who wants to gain weight, we create a calorie surplus. And if I have a client right where they're at, they feel good, I say, stay with what you're doing, just eat really quality food and make sure you're hitting, that 90 to 120 grams of protein for men, 70 to 90 for women. But what I also try to do, Brandon, is I really try not to overload the client with too much information. I simplify it. And that's when I do private one-to-one coaching. I'm like, listen, here's what's going to work. And those things, they just help people so much. Just little tweaks that people don't know, because I've been doing this for a long time, is a life changer for them.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of my takeaway from this episode is nothing you said is so crazy or far-fetched that
No.
anyone couldn't do it. And I think that's the encouraging part is, you hear about a lot of different diets and exercise routines that kind of border on that part-time job philosophy. And I really like everything you're saying. And I want to try it myself first and foremost, but then I also want to see more people do it, because with such little time and effort, but such a massive potential payoff,
the benefits,
it's almost foolish not to, right?
Yeah. And the problem with the fitness industry is there's money to be made, and you have all these influencers, and then they have to put stuff out there to stay relevant. I've been preaching, I got a Rotary Club visit tomorrow, and I was thinking about this today. 25 years ago, I went to the Rotary Club. I already developed the system. I have the same, there's the system's the same. I've tweaked it and I've learned more. I'm always deep diving into like my heart thing there's a long explanation. We don't have enough time for that, but I have a great explanation on how I'll get clients that have a heart attack, and training them properly can actually, this is going to sound too crazy to believe, but it actually is like getting a stent in your heart. And the reason for that is the stroke volume is very high with how I train clients. I'll stop, but I could just go on just a whole thing on that one.
You opened a can of worms there.
I did. I could just get fired up about
it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just really love this stuff. So I'm very passionate about it. And I want to help people. I want people to be great. And I want all the entrepreneurs to do well. I know how hard it is to run your own business. It's just a challenge.
Absolutely. And working out and being healthy is at the forefront of running a good and healthy business, because if the leader's not healthy, the business isn't either. I promise. I've seen it over and over. So Steve, I can't thank you enough for being here.
My pleasure.
Where can the listeners go to get a copy of your book, and also learn more about you and hopefully entrench themselves in what you're doing here?
Awesome. So Amazon, you can get my book there. It's called The Gospel of Fitness, Steve McKinney, How to Age Gracefully, basically. And then if they want to get in touch with me, you have it on the screen, fitnessandmore.net. That's the easiest thing. There's an intro workout there. Just fill out a form. I'll get back with you and help you in any way that I can.
I love it. This is so awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Steve.
My pleasure. What a joy.
For those of you watching, listening, first and foremost, make sure you subscribe. I love bringing these episodes to you, getting the different perspectives and helping you grow not only your business, but this is your personal life and your health too. It's so, so important to growing a successful business. If you want to go get those links, it's down below in the show notes wherever you're watching and listening. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.